This is a National Museum of Australia production. For more information, visit nma.gov.au.
Well, a real sense of excitement and national pride accompanied the first Holden, the car made in Australia for Australia.
Well, now, 60 years later, the very first Holden prototype has been restored to her former glory.
Holden, you in my Holden, you were meant to be mine. We will have a wedding, no regretting, baby, ain't that fine.
The historic motor vehicle fleet at the National Museum of Australia is stored now in these plastic bubbles with positive air pressure keeping the dust off them. It's an ideal and a very economical way of storing these kinds of collections. Here is the museum's very much pride and joy, the #1 prototype Holden, which came into the collection in 2007. This particular model was the very first of the 3 prototypes that were built by hand by a team of Australian and American engineers in Detroit in 1946. Came to Australia in 1947 under a shroud of secrecy as the prototype models for the first vehicles that came off the line in 1948 at Fisherman's Bend. The museum has developed a policy of preserving form as well as function. The preservation of form is a fairly straightforward routine conservation activity, but there's a very, very interesting element of preserving function, particularly with older vehicles and older technologies, because the knowledge, the information, the spare parts to keep these objects going is disappearing. And so we have to design ways in which we can keep these objects alive, we can keep the technologies alive, we can keep the knowledge alive. And so the National Museum of Australia has specialised in this part of the preservation of form and function. And we are developing ways and means of preserving this function well into the future, so that we are able to show people, to demonstrate to people how these objects worked, what they looked like when they worked, even what they smelt like when they worked. It's a very visceral part of preservation, and the work that the large technology program is doing at the National Museum is really producing some remarkable results. So we're here in the technology workshop of the National Museum, and standing underneath the Holden prototype. What we're observing here tells us that this is the real thing, because underside of the body shows these hand-welded seams where the vehicle was very much constructed by hand as the prototype for the ensuing 1948 model. It's painted white. We believe originally it was painted white because that made it easier to see during the road tests if there were any stress fractures and such like. The vehicle itself is a very faithful and well-researched restoration, and so that we're quite confident that what we're seeing now is very much as we would have seen the Holden prototype back in 1946. So it really is a great privilege to be able to work on objects of this significance and value, and to have the knowledge that that we'll be responsible really for ensuring that these kinds of objects live well into the future. The Holden prototype has had some work done on the engine, and quite recently we needed to run the engine in, and of course this is quite a problem for us in that it's a vehicle of very high value and great significance, so we can't possibly run it in on the open road, and that's where we're fortunate in collaborating with our friends the NRMA who provided access to the Oran Park racetrack, and we were able to take the vehicle out very safely and in very controlled conditions to do some test runs and get the engine up to speed, to get the oil up to temperature, so that we were able to see how the vehicle was performing. We were able to make all the necessary predictions we needed to do the necessary tests to ensure that we were doing the right thing with the vehicle, and we were confident that it would survive well into the future. The day at Oran Park was very exciting. We had a lot of media. We had all the right people to drive the vehicles, and so it proved to be a very, very successful event.
But as long as we're to travel together, we'll take them all in top gear, holding you in my Holden. Life is simply sublime. I'll be holding you all life through when you're mine, oh mine.
You can download more programs from nma.gov.au. National Museum of Australia. Discover what it means to be Australian.